All right. Shalom, family. Shalom. Shalom. Over the past few weeks that this war broke out over there in Gaza, it has been a bunch of people trying to pull us in. And they're still trying to do this. They have not stopped one bit. And I notice, like over the past week, they're now using another melanated face to try to get to us. Thank you, dark skinned brother, for the super sticker. And I guess they think that that's going to work, and it will not work. It will not work, y'all. So I want you to see this is a professor out of Columbia that they now have, I guess, calling himself trying to talk to us. And I'm just amazed at how hard they're really trying to do this and really truly believe it is going to work. It is absolutely not going to work. So I'm going to share my screen so that you can hear what he has to say. All right. All right. Please give me a one if you can see the screen. Please give me a one. Where did it go? If you can see the screen. All right, here we go. Thank you. All right, let's get started, y'all.
There's a long history of Black people standing in solidarity with the Palestinian people, and there's a long history of Palestinian people standing in solidarity with Black people. And one way that I like to think about it is that Palestine is an essential chapter of the story of the Black freedom struggle. African descended people have a long tradition of standing on the side of the oppressed across space and time. I think one of the miracles, really, of Black people is that despite, in certain ways, because of our own story of oppression, we've stood in solidarity with those who France Fanon called the damned of the earth or the wretched of the earth. There's so many examples. You can think of Italy invading Ethiopia and Black people, including the great Ella Baker, flooding the streets of Harlem to protest the imperial invasion. You can think about the British Crown when they ruled the Indian subcontinent, and you have Black intellectuals and artists like W.E.B. Du Bois and Paul Robeson, who supported the Indian freedom struggle. When the United States went to war in Vietnam, you have Black freedom fighters, including the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., speaking out against the war and even calling the American government the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. The same can be said of today. We have Black activists, educators, artists, intellectuals standing in solidarity with the landless farmers movement in Brazil, with indigenous people who are fighting against Standing Rock, and of course, in Palestine. So one way that I like to think about it is that this solidarity between Black people and Palestinian people is rooted in what Fannie Lou Hamer said to the entire world in the 1960s, that nobody is free until all of us is free. One of the important connections is very basic. There are Black Palestinians. This is so important. There are Afro Palestinians. It's a small but very rich community of Afro Palestinians who live in the Muslim quarter of the old city. Many of them came as religious pilgrims and have been integral to the Palestinian liberation struggle since the formation of the State of Israel in 1948. So when people ask, why should Black people care about Palestinians? It's an ironic question. I think that reveals how the rich diversity of Palestinian people in many ways has been buried and concealed beneath a language and ideology of othering. Um, I want to say a word about Black people's relationship to Zionism, which is a very complex relationship, in part because of our intimate relationship with the biblical book of Exodus, which enslaved Africans read ourselves into, except in this case, we were the Israelites and America was Egypt. And like most people at the time, most Black activists saw Zionism as a national liberation project. But that began to shift in 1967. Here you see the beginning of the military occupation, which is still firmly intact today. Of course, this was a tumultuous time in the country and throughout the world. The Vietnam War was raging. Third world countries had been fighting for independence from European colonial rule. Many Black freedom fighters began to make connections between U.S. imperialism and Israeli colonization of Palestinian land. So you see all of these expressions of solidarity around this time. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, produces an essay called The Palestine Problem, which frames Zionism as an imperial project upheld by the United States and Europe. You see the Black Panther Party, who understood Black communities in the US as internal colonies. They analogized our struggle to the Palestinian freedom struggle. In 1965, just months before his assassination, Malcolm X went to Gaza. He visited Palestinian refugee camps, which inspired his essay, Zionist Logic. And you have so many other figures that we know of: James Baldwin, Angela Davis, Amiri Baraka, Toni Morrison, Muhammad Ali, and many, many more who all stood in solidarity with the movement for justice in Palestine. The other side of the story, I think, is just as important and oftentimes not told, which is that Palestinian people also supported the Black freedom struggle. And there are so many examples. Just to name a few, the Association of Arab American University Graduates spotlighted the economic and military engagements between Israel and apartheid South Africa. Another example, activist groups such as the Organization of Arab Students invited Stokely Carmichael of SNCC and then the Black Panther Party to speak at their national convention. They even lobbied Shirley Chisholm during her 1972 presidential run. Arab American activists formed an Arab Workers Caucus in Michigan's auto factories, which were modeled after Black labor organizations. And then we see it again in 2014, where Palestinian activists taught people like myself, Ferguson protesters, who were tear gassed, how to respond to tear gas, how to soothe our eyes when the tear gas burned. So these are just a few examples, and I think it's really important to understand that broader historical context in order to understand 2014 when Ferguson exploded, and also to understand October 7th when Gaza exploded. The death toll of children is devastating. And the word devastating is such an understatement because there's really no language that can articulate the precious value of babies who just entered into the world, whose eyes are bright, whose hearts are beating, who are learning to dream dreams when they sleep at night. There's something beautiful about a baby, and a mother and a father or a cousin or an uncle or a neighbor or a classmate, they know about all the particularities of that baby. I think it's important when we talk about the death toll, the numbers, that we don't lose the fact that these were babies with names. These were children with secrets that they had not shared with anyone yet. These were kids who had favorite sports teams and watched certain television shows. They were trying to live a good life like everybody that I know. I think it's important to lead with our hearts, that when we're entering into this conversation, when we're standing up for justice, that we never lose sight of the fact that that is somebody's baby. And if Black people know anything, we know the story of a Black mother who's lost her child. We may not know all the details of what happened to that young man named Emmett Till, but we know the picture of his mother wailing at his funeral. That picture being tattooed on the memory of Black people. And it's for that reason that I think many of us, Black women, Black men, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters, cousins, are looking at what's happening there and saying, no, this is not right. Because although, again, we're not in the same exact situation, we know what it's like to lose somebody prematurely and brutally by a state that claims to protect. Um, and so that is really important. And I think it's important for us, again, to recognize the beauty and the humanity and the particularity of those numbers and that death toll that continues to increase and increase. It is an absolute tragedy that this country, the richest nation on earth, has decided to use our tax dollars to fund the Israeli government genocidal assault on the Palestinian people.
Okay. I'm not going to play the rest of it, y'all. I'm not going to play the rest of it because this is definitely a propaganda piece. And, as far as what he's saying, that's the problem I have. We're supposed to always look for the humanity and everything, but nobody ever looks for the humanity in us. When things are happening to us, nobody ever looks for humanity when it comes down to that. But we are all expected to look for the humanity in everything else, but not for ourselves. So that's the problem I have with what he's saying. He's actually a professor over at Columbia University, and they had him do this to address the Black community, and saying now his name is Niall Fort, and he wants us to join hands with Palestinians. And what he is neglecting to see is the average one of us that have experienced Palestinians here are usually those that will set up shop in the Black community. Some of those people that you think are Arabs are Palestinians. That's what they are. And they come in our neighborhood, mistreat our people in those stores, and have no other connection with us whatsoever. Thank you, Donna, for the super chat. Shalom to you too. Dark skin brother, Thanks for cutting that fool of I don't know how much longer I could listen to his babble. Yes. Okay. The problem with people like him, they don't experience the Palestinians like some of us do within the black community. And when you walk in these Arab stores, start asking them where their origins are from. You'll be shocked at how many of them are Palestinian that have come over here and set up shop in your neighborhood. They won't hire your people. They won't put money back in the community. They come to make money and leave. That's it. And that's all. That's really your whole relationship with them. Or you will experience racism. It's not unusual for you to experience racism from these very same people. The relationship is not good. The average citizen, what he's describing on this video, we don't experience that. That's the problem. So this solidarity is invisible or damn near non existent to the average one of us because they're like many of these groups, whether they're Asian, Arab, East Indian. Once they cross that ocean and come into this nation, they usually jump right on the white supremacist bandwagon against us. And that's what they have done historically. It doesn't matter what they did over 50 years ago with Dr. King or over 50 years ago, and that's what the problem is. When they say we stood with you, then they reference Dr. King. You know how long ago that was? To me, it's an insult. So once 50 years ago, you stood with black people and that's it. That's it. We supposed to see that as something? Nah, like Janet Jackson said, what have you done for me lately? So when you support us, it's just one time 50 years ago. That's very insulting. It's very insulting. And I think many of us have grown tired of people having the expectation that we should take up every cause. But when things happen to us, nobody takes up our cause. And that's old and stale. And nobody is trying to do that anymore. So, I mean, yeah, now they're trying to lay it on with melanated faces. Now, just a few days ago, I showed you the former Miss Israel and how she went on to Fox News to address. Now, they're using BLM, but they're talking to us. That's why they're getting in front of an American audience to do this. And now you got this professor from Columbia University, Kyle Ford, and don't be shocked if you start seeing a flood of melanated faces because they are desperately trying to get us on their side. Why? Because they know we are the chosen people, ladies and gentlemen. They know. They know. They can play stupid all they want. They know who we are. People over in that region know who we are. Number two, our prayers carry weight. They want those prayers. For a long time, we gave our prayers without a second thought. But look at what happens when we withhold those prayers and they can't get to us enough. They can't guilt trip us enough to give those prayers to them. See, he listens to our prayers. He don't listen to their prayers, and they know it. That's why every time something happens, they'll come around us with all that pray for this and pray for Ukraine and pray for the Palestinians and pray for the Israelis and pray for this and pray. Yeah, that's why they do that because they know our prayers are going to be heard. That's why. So they're going to keep coming and coming and coming because they need those prayers, y'all. They need them. And that is their goal. So I guess if they can't get our prayers with their faces, they're going to now stack up the melanated faces to come out against us. Oh, you should side with this and remember the former Miss Israel said we are supposed to side with Israel. That's what she said. We are supposed to do that. And then now you hear Kyle Fort, he is now telling you you're supposed to side with the Palestinians. Just pulling us in all directions, you know? Yeah, well, see, that's the problem, y'all. That's why they keep coming at us because they're not getting those prayers. Before, they would say pray, and our people would be in the churches praying, our people would just pray on their own, and we would be lifting our voices up in prayer. We're not doing that anymore. That's why they're not feeling the effects of those prayers, not anymore. So they're trying to double down to do what they think is going to motivate us into just lifting off those prayers to the Most High. Remember, he don't listen to the prayers of sinners. So they can pray all day and all night. He's not going to listen to their prayers. But if we pray, he's definitely going to hear his children. Thank you, kid. Gravity Beyond. You know what? I'm going to have you on a live real soon. Salute to Lisa in the chat. Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to you and see if we can come together maybe in the near future and do a live. Um so that's where it stands, but you can see the level of desperation they are now coming to, y'all. It is pure desperation what they're doing. How you doing, KD? No, that's the problem. Good favor, they're not feeling those prayers. Before, they would actually feel the energy from our prayers. They're not feeling that energy from our prayers anymore. They know they're not getting us to pray. They know it. Mhm. Yeah, I mean, look, we done been through too much with these folks. And it just seems like it doesn't matter what nation they come from, they always have this insidious hate for us. I mean, it doesn't matter. I mean, look, you even got some, not all, some of these people that even come from melanated places like South America, Africa, the islands, and they come with disdain for us. Not all of them, though, but enough for us to be aware of it. It's enough for us to be fully aware that these folks sometimes come over here and they don't like us. They don't like us even before they reach American soil. So, we'll just keep looking at their level of desperation. Like, don't be surprised. You're going to see this stuff all the time. All the time. No, we pray for our nation to rise and for us to be out of the kingdom that belongs to the Gentiles and get into our own kingdom. That's the only thing I'm going to be praying for. I'm not praying for anything else. hmm So, y'all, that's what I wanted you to see. They are getting desperate. Just know that. So, everybody, please enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll definitely come back and do this once again. Shalom, family.